PFF talks glowingly about the Chicago Bears' interior offensive line, and we're talking a little bit about that. But the same outlet talks down about the Chicago Bears' defensive line. We know they have a lot to prove there. We're going to talk about those two things plus more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Jarrett Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And PFF is pretty high on the Chicago Bears offensive line, calling the Chicago Bears guard duo the best duo in the NFL. That is pretty large, wording there when it comes down to it. Pro Football Focus said that the Chicago Bears have the best guard duo in the NFL. Now, is some going to say, is that a hot take? I guess we'll see, right? It depends on how they perform in health. I think health is going to play a big role in a lot of these things for the Chicago Bears. And, why you don't want to predict injuries or anything like that, you can't. When you don't have the best depth, you still have to think about those things. And I think that's something that, that maybe I think about a little bit too much is regards to the Chicago Bears and the depth on the offensive line is that, it's some questionable depth there. Now, it could end up working out. I think that you have players that can play multiple positions for the Chicago Bears in that depth of that offensive line. But, if one of Jonah Jackson or Joe Thuney goes down, what do the Bears really have coming up behind them? And that's the question that you have there. You look at our guard rotation outside of them. You got Ryan Bates, which, okay, Bill Murray, who looked good at times last year as well, right? Luke Newman, who I think could play either position, but he's more of a center. But that's a guy that is young there. Theo Benedict as well is, I think, a player that if I'm not mistaken can play multiple positions as well. But let's focus on what they did talk about. They talked about the Chicago Bears and the offensive line, specifically about Caleb Williams and the fact that he was sacked 68 times. That's the third most as far as sacked quarterbacks in the NFL history, only behind Randall Cunningham in 1986 at 72 and David Carr in 2002 at 76. So, you have to look at that part when it comes down to it. But they called Joe Thuney the best damn guard in football, the gold standard of guards when it came down to it. They look at the resume. 4-time Super Bowl champion with Brady and Mahomes in those eras. A 2-time first-time All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, 80-plus PFF pass blocking grade since 2021. That's number one amongst guards, and allowed one pressure in 316 snaps from weeks 5 to 12 in 2024. He only missed 2 games in 9 seasons. Joe Thuney is the definition of consistency when you talk about NFL guards. There's just no other way around it. He is the definition of consistency, and the Bears do hope that that's going to help them propel their offensive line to being in a place of respectable, of course. He doesn't just hold the line, he erases defenders, and that's something that you cannot deny when it comes down to it. Now, the thing with it, his pass blocking grades have been on the decline, and that goes with age. From 2021, where he had a 90 pass blocking grade, to 2022, where it was a little bit below 90, dropped all the way down to 84 in 2023, and then 80 in 2024. So there is a decline there. And, I know that's not things that Bears fans want to hear. Believe me, it's not things that I want to talk about either. But I think we have to be realistic in saying that there is a chance that the decline continues for Joe Thuney. But how much of that can he still bring? And I tell you what, he's still one of the best damn guards in football when it comes down to it, even with everything that's going on. But then let's flip that. Let's look at Jonah Jackson in the same time of that, right? He was a Pro Bowler in 2021. Under Ben Johnson. He started 57 straight games from 2020 to 2023. He's only had 2 sacks allowed in 928 pass blocking snaps. That goes from 2022 to 2024 when he's playing guard, which is what he's moving back to now for the Chicago Bears, his ability to play guard. His pressure rate was one of the best in the games of football. So when you look at PFF grading the Chicago Bears guard duo as the best in football, it's not just noise. There is statistical belief and backing in that claim. Now, the thing is are they going to be able to do it with the Chicago Bears? And that's the thing that we won't know until they take the football field. But like I'm sure many Bears fans is that, people have past production, and somehow, sometimes when they come to the Chicago Bears, it doesn't always end up holding to that. Now, I think that's a long part that goes with the coaching that we've had here and the lack of coaching that we've had a lot over the years for the Chicago Bears. But this duo came in here, and the Bears went out and got themselves a duo that mattered. Not only the fact of the floor that they have, which is really high when it comes down to it, and Jonah Jackson, I think, still has even more left on his ceiling, but the fit of Ben Johnson's system is the thing that also is important there. And Ben Johnson likes the type of guards that we now have in Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. And that's the thing that you're looking at it for. When you look at combined PFF grades, right? The Chicago Bears compare to the top of the league. They have a combined PFF grade of 81.1. Now, they did not play last year, so you look at that when it comes down to it. But when you put that amongst anybody else, they are towards the top of the league as far as combined PFF grade, which ups what we need in that interior defensive line so dramatically. The Bears not only cooked by getting Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, but when you pair that with Dan Ruchar, Ben Johnson's system as well, it starts painting a picture to where the Chicago Bears not only just put their money where their mouth is, they went out there and got guys that are going to completely and utterly turn around the fortune of this offensive line, and therefore provide more stability and protection for Caleb Williams, as well as better for the tackles that are there as well. Darnell Wright, who we already know is going to be a starter, whether it's Braxton, whether it's Kieran, whether it's Ozzie Trapillo, having the veterans there is going to be a big part of it as well. When you throw in Drew Dahlman, keep in mind, we're not even talking about Drew Dahlman as the center, the guy who touches the ball on every single snap that he's out there, maybe even more than the quarterback sometimes. That's going to be the thing there that you look at. So the Bears have invested in their offensive line. A 2-year, $35 million contract extension to Joe Thuney that puts him at $17.5 million annual average value on that contract, with $33.5 million guaranteed. You traded for Jonah Jackson for a 6th rounder. You gave him an extension as well. You invested in your offensive line in a way that the Bears have needed to do for years. So the renovation of this offensive line has been legitimate. You also put draft stock into it with Luke Newman, with Ozzie Trapillo. You drafted as well in the investment in this offensive line. So now the question is what does this mean for Caleb Williams? What does this mean for Ben Johnson? For Caleb Williams, it's simple. Hopefully Caleb is going to have more of a clean pocket going forward. What does it provide for the other people on that offensive line? Veteran communication, veteran leadership that you've needed there for a while, something that Darnell Wright has not had, something that Ozzie Trapillo is going to need as he starts his NFL career. So now, if the Chicago Bears do fail, it's probably not going to be because of the offensive line, or is it going to be because of injury? Because finally, the Chicago Bears have fully invested in their offensive line in a way that's not only, it's backed by statistics, it's backed by advanced analytics, it's backed by the eye test. Now, not to say that PFF is everything. I always like to say that the PFF grade isn't the end-all, be-all in football analytics and stats, but at least it gives us a view that we can look at this and say, the Bears might have cooked. And I keep saying might have, because like I say with everything else, it comes down to how it plays out on the football field for the Chicago Bears. And that's the thing that we're looking out for the most here. And let's hope that it does end up paying off on the field for the Bears, because if it does, the Bears have not only just flipped one of their biggest weaknesses into a strength, they may have flipped it into something that is one of the best in the NFL, but that has to be proven out there on the football field. So I'm not going to crown their ass here on a podcast yet. But it does paint things in a more positive light of what the Chicago Bears could be getting out this interior offensive line. And again, one of the questions that I do have there is the depth. What about the people behind those guys? But hopefully they're going to prove it as well this season. Dan Ruchar still being there as the offensive line coach gives me a little bit of more confidence in what they can be. So now we got to see what it's going to be. But let me know what you guys think. Hearing all the statistics, PFF throwing it out there that the Bears have the best guard duo in football. Do you believe that? And if you do, then what do you think that means for Caleb Williams? What do you think that means for the run game this year? If you don't believe it, how confident are you in the interior offensive line for the Chicago Bears? Let me know that down below. With that said, PFF, while talking glowingly about the Chicago Bears offensive line, weren't as necessarily as glowing about the other side of the trenches on the defensive line for the Chicago Bears, saying this, right? The Chicago Bears defensive line currently ranked it 18th in the league. Now, I would say this, ranking it 18th, I'm not taking that as a slight. I'm going to be 100% honest with you because the defensive line was so inconsistent last year in both run defense and in getting consistent pressure on the quarterback. And while there were some bright moments, everything came crashing down basically after we started suffering injuries on there. So while the Chicago Bears don't rank as high up in PFF's grade as they do on offense, you got to look at some of the defensive lines. Like Pittsburgh was number 1. The Philadelphia Eagles were number 2. You just saw what they did in the Super Bowl. The New York Giants were number 3. Houston Texans number 4. Bills number 5. Detroit Lions number 6. And then you get all the way down to the Chicago Bears at number 18 there, with the Colts being one spot above them and the Los Angeles Chargers being one spot below them. But they said this: the Bears added veteran interior defender Grady Jarrett to a unit that lacks star power but has plenty of starting caliber players. In 2024, Chicago's defense generated pressure on 34% of pass plays without blitzing, which ranked 6th in the NFL. The 2024 defensive line was led by second-year interior defender Javon Dexter, whose 70.3 PFF overall grade ranked 23rd at the position. And I do think this, right? I think it's fair because what the Bears have done on their defensive line isn't as proven as what they did on the offensive line. Yes, you added a veteran in Grady Jarrett, who himself has been on a bit of a decline, but still a very productive player. You have now second-year starter Javon Dexter going into his third year overall in the NFL, but to what Darius calls in about all the time, like there's some much-needed and understood questions about Javon Dexter, not only in the run game, which is one of his biggest glaring things, but can he be consistent in the pressure that he can get on that defensive line in year 3? That's the question there. Montez Sweat, getting him some help. And what they got him in help in Dayo Odeyingbo, while a productive player per the snap count, we haven't seen him be an everyday down starter, which is going to be now here with the Chicago Bears. Again, a guy that Dennis Allen really wanted in here in the Chicago Bears uniform. So you're looking at that when it comes down to it. So their Bears have more questions, right? They didn't go out and while they added veterans in Grady Jarrett, Dayo Odeyingbo, they drafted Shamar Turner, who could be there. Andrew Billings hopefully is going to be more healthy, but there's still more hope there. You're hoping that Dayo Odeyingbo is going to be able to provide enough pressure on the opposite side to give teams poise and thought if they're going to double team Montez Sweat. You're hoping that Javon Dexter is going to be able to be more consistent this season than what he was last season. And then you're hoping Daniel Hardy and Austin Booker are going to be able to continue their upward growth and development to be better as far as depth edges for you in year 2 and to see what they can bring for you overall. So there are more question marks on the defensive line than what there are on the offensive line. So again, I'm always going to be fair in the analysis of the Chicago Bears. Where I come left at is when people say stupid shit about the Bears, but I think ranking them 18th before you see any of how this works with not as much raw data to show of proven data for the guys that are there, I think that it paints a picture of it's a fair picture. I think that it's fair how they're viewing the Bears defensive line. We just got to see how this trenches is going to step up. And if Dayo, with the combination of speed, size, and strength that he has, can do enough to keep teams from double teaming Montez Sweat as frequently as what they did, and we get better and more consistent pressure on the interior of that defensive line, I do think things are going to start and people are going to start waking up and realizing the Bears may have something here. I say may because they still got to prove it. And, I've said many times before, and, it's frustrated some Bears fans. Some Bears fans have appreciated my realism when I talk about this, but the Bears have to prove it, and they have to show it. And so on paper, nothing gets done, right? And we too often as Bears fans have seen things that should work on paper that don't actually work in reality. And, like I said, Dayo's had 8 sack seasons. 2023, 8 sacks, 2 fumbles forced, 2 fumbles recovered. Great there. 2 passes deflected as well that season. That was probably his best season. All 17 games played. 38 total tackles. 31 last year, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovered. So, this is a guy that you can see what he brings there. You can see what he's able to do theoretically. But, trying to project a player that's been a depth piece out to being a starter, it doesn't always go that way. But Dennis Allen is hopeful for Dayo Odeyingbo. And I'm not trying to put it all on Dayo. Like I said, Dayo and Javon have to bring it consistently for the Chicago Bears this year. If you have those 2 guys that are bringing it consistently for the Bears, I do think that this defensive line is going to be a lot better than people are giving it credit for, but they have to go out and show it. And that's the thing that, you can't prove none of that on the sidelines and in training camp without pads on. You have to do it against other teams. You have to do it out there and show it in reality, and that's what you're left here with. But overall, I'll say this. The Bears, and we all know it at this point, the Bears have done a near amazing job at adding depth and adding talent to their trenches. More proven talent on the offensive side, more question mark talent on the defensive side, but they've added the talent there. Now we got to see this coaching staff and how they use it, and if these players can step up into the roles now that they're going to be asked to do by said coaching staff. But Dennis Allen, being somebody who wanted Dayo Odeyingbo here, that's what gives me a lot of confidence in what Dayo can bring here, because when you have a coach that wants a specific player, that sometimes, I'm not going to say all the time that it's one for one, but that sometimes means that they have a vision on how they want to use that player and how they can fit in their scheme. Dayo is a big body, 6'6", 276 pounds, and he's strong as an ox and really fast for the size that he has there. If he can bring that consistently for the Bears, that opens things up considerably and helps alleviate some of that pressure off Montez Sweat. But make no mistake about it, Montez has to have a much better season than what he did last year. If he does not, it is going to get ugly. So we'll see what this team can bring, man. We'll see what this team has in store for us. I, for one, hope that it is a really good season and that this defensive line can get more pressure consistently than even some Bears fans are expecting and thinking that they're going to be. And then we look at this and be like, hey, no, Ryan Poles may have done his big one here. And let's just see if that's going to be the realistic thing that we have here. We'll see. But at the end of the day, it's all going to be told on the football field. I just can't wait for actual football to get here because I, for one, am tired of talking about storylines. I'm ready to talk about some goddamn football. I'm ready to see people get hit. And hopefully it's us doing more of the hitting than getting hit. But, we'll see what happens there. But with that said, I got one voicemail I want to get into today. Yes, tomorrow's the full mailbag, but I could already tell there's going to be a little bit overflow. We got this one. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas, man. I just wanted to comment on once again, the whole fucking DJ Moore trade scenario thing. Once again, we got the most toxic fucking media, I think, in all of sports. I think we're even worse in New York, to be quite honest with you, man. But nevertheless, DJ Moore is going to be fine. I think he's going to have a great season. I think that his skill set is suited pretty well to take over that Amon-Ra St. Brown type usage. I think that he's got some of the same skill set. I think that he can do a lot of things that Amon-Ra can do, and I think that Ben Johnson will probably scheme some of those same routes from him, and he'll be fine, man. It's just that our media is so toxic. As far as the stuff from last year, I was just watching Tyson Bagent. He was on the Barstool podcast, and he was just talking about the difference in the locker room from this year and last year. And he mentioned that last year, and maybe basically since he got there in Eberflus's regime, since his rookie year, he was saying that every year each year I should say, there was half the locker room was bought in, half of it wasn't. And you can tell who was and you can tell who wasn't. He didn't mention any names as far as exactly the guys, but I think DJ was just one of those guys that he was talking about that wasn't bought in, man. Who can be bought into that shitty scheme? And I don't think that anybody is in the position to judge DJ Moore for complaining. Now, he does have to step up. But I don't think anybody can blame him. It's not like he was throwing Gatorade jugs on the sideline, dude. He quit early a couple times because the scheme was fucking pointless. He was tired of averaging 10 points a game. We've all been in a situation, in our careers where we feel like the people above us were doing bullshit. And it's hard to have good body language in those situations. So, he's human just like us. But that really, made a lot of sense to me what Tyson said. And he said that this is the first year that he feels like everybody in the locker room is bought in. And that says a lot. So, just ignore the DJ shit, guys, and let's just keep on chugging. Texas up, bear down.
Darius, I know me and you, we joke back and forth. That's just our relationship, but I couldn't agree with you more here. I think that when you talk about the media that the Chicago Bears have and how the Chicago Bears are covered also nationally, I think that there is so much kind of biasness that you naturally see here with just the way that the Bears are covered. Day to day, they are not covered by the same way, some of the way that teams are giving caveats for certain decisions. Like, hell, the fact that J.J. McCarthy was ranked above Caleb Williams as one of the, as far as the starting quarterback rankings, and it's like he wasn't even a full-time starter. And you're already ranking him above Caleb Williams, who broke rookie records. Like, I get it that I'm not saying that Caleb's season should be looked at as the end-all, be-all, and all of a sudden this great season, but let's be clear here. Like, you're rating J.J. McCarthy as a starting quarterback over a player that actually started last year, his rookie year? That's crazy to me. And I think that goes to show that everybody doubts the Chicago Bears. But like I said, in fairness, the Bears have done it to themselves a lot as well. We cannot act like the Bears have not done some of this to themselves by the way that they have operated as a franchise for years. And now it's the Bears to show that that's not us anymore. And so, yeah, the DJ Moore trade shit, stupid. Some of the Caleb Williams stuff, stupid. Some of the Cole Kmet trade stuff, stupid. There's a lot of stupidity around. Some of it comes from Bears fans. But with that said, it just comes down to proving it. And I think once the Bears start winning, and hopefully that happens this year, once the Bears start looking like an offense that's being creative and using their weapons right, I think people then will realize, like, hey, why would the Bears trade DJ Moore? Why would they do that when the offense is rocking and rolling like it's looking like? So I think that ultimately what it comes down to. We'll just see how it shakes out. But thank you for that voicemail, Darius. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.